Okay,
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
Welcome, League members and guests. I'm Bonnie McNeil, Voter Services Chair for League of Women Voters, Deerfield area. I'm happy to welcome you to the candidate forum for the primary candidates for the Lake County Sheriff. Our program is being held through the Zoom platform, is being recorded. The forum will be posted in its entirety on host League social media platforms and the Illinois Voter Guide. The League claims copyright ownership of any recording or transcript produced of the forum. Any other use of the forum recording requires the express written permission of the League. Our Spanish interpreter is Patricia Linares, who is joining us from the Language Access Resource Center. And you can access the Spanish interpretation by clicking on the globe icon on your screen. League of Women Voters is a 102-year-old organization that is proudly nonpartisan. We encourage informed and active participation in government, work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. We stand firm in our commitment to empower voters and defend democracy. Our commitment to these principles is honored through the sponsorship of programs such as this forum, the creation of the Illinois Voters Guide, a nonpartisan compilation of candidates in all Illinois races, and in our support for voter registration and education programs throughout the year. Today's forum is sponsored by Leagues of Women Voters of Deerfield, Lincolnshire Area, Highland Park, Highwood, Lake County, Lake Forest, Lake Bluff Area, and Northwest Lake County. I would now like to introduce our moderator, Paula Laughlin, who will explain the guidelines of today's forum and introduce the candidates. It should be noted that under League rules, the moderator may not reside within the election district of the candidates participating in the forum. Paula is a member of the League of Women Voters of Glencoe, who resides in Glencoe, Illinois. She is past president of the League of Women Voters of Illinois and the League of Women Voters of Glencoe. Paula currently serves on the League of Women Voters of Illinois Issues Committee as an issue specialist in the area of redistricting. She has moderated forums for U.S. congressional districts and local village and community boards. It is her interest in the issues involved and the workings of government that led her to volunteer work for the League of Women Voters. Thank you, Paula, for being with us today.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Good evening. I'm Paula Lawson, your moderator for the Forum for Candidates running for Democratic and Republican primaries for the Lake County Sheriff in the June 28th, 2022 election. This forum is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the sponsoring league's social media pages and on the Illinois Voter Guide. A Spanish language interpretation is available. To get the interpretation, click on the globe on your screen.
May I say it in Spanish, Paula?
Sure.
Para escuchar en español, haga clic en el globo pequeño en la parte de abajo de su pantalla.
Okay. Thanks, Rosemary. In the Republican primary, the candidates are John K. Van Diem II and Mark A. Weiss II. The candidates in the Democratic primary for Lake County Sheriff are John D. Eidelberg and William C. King. Only one candidate in the Republican primary, Mr. Weiss, has agreed to participate in this forum. Under league rules, we must have at least two candidates in order to ask questions from the audience. However, Mr. Weiss will be able to make a 3-minute statement. After Mr. Weiss's statement, we will proceed with the Democratic part of the forum. Mr. Weiss, please begin your statement. You will see time cards showing 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds remaining, and time's up.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Mark Weiss, and I am running for Lake County Sheriff on the Republican ballot. I'm born and raised in the greater Round Lake area. I have two wonderful daughters, an 8 and a 4-year-old, and I am married to my wife, Amber, who is a Lake Village school teacher. Throughout my career here with the Sheriff's Office, I got hired in 2006. I've worked in court security, highway patrol, our community relations and school safety team. I was also assigned as the undercover narcotics agent with the Lake County MEG Task Force. Did that for 2.5 years. During that time, I became a certified DEA narcotics agent, period. I'm also a certified school resource officer. I'm certified in instructing Ellis safety throughout school programs. I am also a certified juvenile officer. So the things that I want to do when I run for sheriff are, we need to change some things. We need to change how we connect with the community. We need to show that we're going to protect our families and protect our neighborhoods. We have to rebuild those relationships immediately. How are we going to rebuild those relationships? We have to get our law enforcement and our correctional staff numbered. As everyone knows, since 2020, law enforcement has taken a arrested. We are losing people on a daily basis, and we cannot replenish those officers as if we are losing them. In order to help our community, we have to get those numbers up. How are we going to get those numbers up? By creating incentives that are going to drive law enforcement and correctional officers to our department. We have to do this. Other agencies within Lake County have these incentives. They're able to use these incentives and get people to come to the departments. We just have to be able to use it and show that we're the strongest department in Lake County. One of the other things I want to do, and I know it hits dear with everyone right now, I've talked for a long time and my platform starting a county-wide school safety plan. We need this. Right now, the sheriff's office has 44 unincorporated schools as part of a unincorporated school safety plan for all of the unincorporated schools. During my time, I want to rebuild that and work with everyone in this county and get the sheriffs, the police chiefs, superintendents of every school involved, so we're working as one unit. I also know that we have to build a stronger relationship with our police agencies around us. That is something that's lacked with us, and we are not all on the same page with one another. Those are the key things I want to focus on as sheriff here. I thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Vice, for participating. We appreciate your taking the time to help educate the public. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to review the rules for the Democratic Party candidates for Lake County Sheriff, Mr. Eidelberg and Mr. King. Each candidate's opening statement is limited to 2 minutes. Opening statements will be given by candidates in alphabetical order by last name, Mr. Eidelberg followed by Mr. King. Candidates will each be given 1.5 minutes to respond to questions posed by the moderator. The order of answering questions will be alternated. Mr. King will give the first response to question 1, Mr. Eidelberg the first response to question 2, and so on. Each candidate is allowed 2 minutes for closing statements, which will be presented in reversed order of the opening statements. The league is providing timekeepers who will show candidates the remaining time for each statement or question. The timer cards will show 1 minute, 30 seconds, and times up. Candidates will restrict themselves to answering questions posed by the moderator. Personal attacks and exchanges between candidates will be ruled out of order. Attendees were able to submit questions. The league reviewed them for appropriateness and to avoid duplication. At this time, I would like to invite the candidates to turn on their videos. And we will begin. Now let's start with opening statements. And the first opening statement goes to Mr. Eidelberg, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to talk about my candidacy for Sheriff of Lake County. I want to start out that I started my public career in 1974 as a Marine Corps individual, and I served our country well, and I received an honorable discharge from the Marine Corps. I started my law enforcement career with the Lake County Sheriff Department back in 1977 as a deputy in the jail. I moved from there and went to the Great Lakes Police Department, where I was a police officer there for a total of 4 years. I went to the Chicago Police Academy to be certified as a police officer. So 2 years as a police officer, 2 years as a detective, and I rolled up the ranks to lieutenant. Then the opportunity presented itself for me to take on the position with the Department of Defense as a special agent with the Department of Defense. I held that position for 4 years. And then I had the opportunity to take on a position with the United States Treasury Department, where I was a special agent with the Treasury Department. I spent 32 years with the Treasury Department, and some of the great things I did within the Treasury Department, I was very fortunate to be on Bill Clinton re-election campaign. When we headed in Chicago to DMC, I was on his protection detail. And also during the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, I was on the protection detail protecting dignitaries from around the world. I am proud to be here front. I am also want to say I was elected to the office in November 2018. I was sworn in the sheriff of Lake County on December 1, 2018. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. King, your opening statement.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm very humbled to be here. I am an individual with 17 years of law enforcement experience, have gone through every position possible outside of being promoted. Been a juvenile detective, adult detective. Matter of fact, I started my career in North Chicago, where I spent 7 years honing my skills, and then 10 years now with the sheriff's office. But I want to take the rest of the time that I have. We have a problem going on in our nation, and more importantly and specifically, we have a problem going on in our county. We are losing people due to gun violence. It is unimaginable where a 14-year-old, it's easier for him to pick up a Glock than take a pencil to class. That has to stop. What I have in place, I have a mentoring program that will resolve some of that. We need to address the issue. As sheriff of this county, it is imperative that we speak on this issue, we address it, we resolve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're on to our questions. And the first one will go to Mr. King to start. What do you see as the fundamental responsibilities of the sheriff's office?
Well, the sheriff has 3 responsibilities. Those are the jail, the courthouse, and civil process. Those are the responsibilities of the sheriff set forth by the county. So in doing that, we need to make sure that our courtrooms are secure, that our judges feel comfortable delivering their judgments or whatnot in their courtroom. The clerks need to be protected also. In the jail, we're 40 some odd correctional officers down. That's a safety issue. And we can't keep running them into overtime. These individuals are experiencing health issues as a result. On the highway side of things, and I'm getting away because you notice I didn't mention highway when I talked about the 3 things that the sheriff is responsible for. But on the highway patrol side of things, we are 40 plus officers down. There is no catching up to this attrition. And any leader worth his weight sees this problem, addresses this problem, resolves this problem.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Eidelberg, the question, what do you see as the fundamental responsibilities of the sheriff's office?
The statutory authority of the sheriff mandated by the state legislator is also the jail, civil process, and courts. And those are the things that the #1 priority of the sheriff. But also my concern is public safety, partnership with different agencies to make our community safe. And that's one of the things that I've always talked about is that, and also talk about transparency within the community, because we also need to realize that the community don't feel very involved with the law enforcement, and it is our job as leadership to embrace that and have conversation and dialogue how we can make our community safe in partnership with all people from all walks of life. That's as important, because we all want to feel safe to go around in our community and not feel threat. And that's my, far as I'm concerned as the sheriff, is public safety and working with partnership through this county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now this next question goes to Mr. Eidelberg first. What experiences have you had in the area of law enforcement, and how does your experience influence your philosophy in the management of the sheriff's office?
You know, I spent my career in protection of this great country and also in law enforcement. As I said before, I started with law enforcement in 1977. I have over 40 years of dedicated law enforcement service, and I have worked many ranks within law enforcement. But I also have been trained by the best law enforcement agency that our country has, and that's the federal government. I have been trained at Glencoe, Georgia, as a federal agent. I have been trained at Quantico and a lot of other federal agencies. And I've also have been what we call lead investigators on joint investigations. So I have been trained by the best, and I'm really the only true proven leader who's in this race for this office of sheriff. And I have the most experience in the background to be the sheriff of Lake County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. King, what experience have you had in the area of law enforcement, and how does your experience influence your philosophy in management of sheriff's office?
When I started my career at North Chicago in 2001, I had Deputy Chief Thies ask me to write down what I attempt to accomplish in my first year at North Chicago. And I wrote down, I wanted to clean up the streets, make it possible for children to play without being harmed, adults to come out of their houses without being robbed, killed, stabbed. And a year later, I came back into the office and he said, I have something for you. And it was a letter. And that letter, I did not accomplish my goals of cleaning up the streets. My experience of being in the streets, investigating crimes all the way from homicide to your petty crimes, petty theft crimes. I understand that there's a true disconnect with the community. And as sheriff, I can bridge those gaps. We talk about true leadership. Leadership is action, not talk. And we got to get away from voting for individuals who talk but are not walking the walk. We have to be accountable and responsible. I look to us as being the reasons why our young people are the way they are now. It's the adults. So if we're going to show true leadership, that's where we have to start, because they are the future.
Okay, thank you. Next question goes to Mr. King first. What are your thoughts on prevention of gun violence in Lake County?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I think I started this off by mentioning the gun violence issues. And I have noticed that, let me start by saying this. I want to address it. I want to get out there and I want to address this. We have 14-year-olds being gunned down in broad daylight by other juveniles. And I have created a mentoring program called RISE, Reaching Individual Success with Excellence. Implementation of that particular mentoring program is going to do certain things. It's going to target our young males. It's going to decrease the criminal activity that they're engaged in, whether that be stealing cars or your more serious, your heinous crimes, homicide. Then we will stop people from going into the jails, thereby reducing the recidivism, because we don't have that many people coming back. So what I'm talking about is getting a program implemented countywide, bring all the superintendents to the table, which I've already spoken to several. This is a mentoring program that works, that can bridge this gap. Gun control, we have to hold the adults accountable. There's no 14-year-old going to buy a gun from the store. Adults are buying these guns. We need to enforce the laws that are already there and hold those adults accountable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Eidelberg, what are your thoughts on prevention of gun violence in Lake County?
We all realize that we have a violence regarding guns. We have seen in the past, 2 months of this violent shooting that took place in Buffalo, that had taken place in Texas. And one of the things that I implemented when I became sheriff, we had what we call a gun unit. And we have rebranded that group to be called the Special Investigator Group. And under my leadership, we have taken more guns off the street than any other previous administration. We have arrested more felons than any other administration. And again, we're taking over $10 million worth of drugs off the street. And also we were able to, under my leadership, to disband a Satan disciple gang organization here in our county that was preying on our community. And we were also able to intervene to stop 2 drive-by shooting in our community. So I'm very focused on what we need to do about reducing the gun violence in our community. Because I also realize that it's about partnership and being aware of what's going on and engaging those people who are selling guns to our children, which is unacceptable for me as the sheriff of the county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question goes to Mr. Eidelberg first. What data should the sheriff's office use to follow and respond to trends and needs in the community?
My response is this. We as leaders of any organization, especially the sheriff, we have to communicate with our community. And one of the things that I created was the Criminal Justice Community Council, which is from individuals from all walks of our community and faith-based leaders to talk to me about their concern and their issue, and the sheriff to sit down and have that dialogue, and also bring other law enforcement to the table. How do we address this? What are we doing? Because I've always said it's about transparency, and we're only good in law enforcement as a community we serve and that the community believe in us. And I think that's important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. King, what data should the sheriff's office use to follow and respond to trends and needs of the community?
Well, when we say data, it makes it more computerized. It makes it more either quantitative. What I want to do, and the sheriff hit on one thing, but we have to be, with times have changed, so must we. I'm not waiting for somebody to come to me to talk to me about the problem. I'm aware of the problem. I have my pulse, my hand on the pulse. I go talk to these leaders. I don't sit behind a desk. I don't sit in the office. I go talk. I go engage. I know what the issues are. I'm speaking about some of the issues now. We don't have to look to Buffalo and New York, California, Florida. We have it right here in Lake County. And we have to do something. We have to stop working in silos. We have to not say we are the sheriff's office and you'll come to me. No, we're the sheriff's office. We will come serve you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question goes to Mr. King for the response first. What do the current statistics on violence in Lake County indicate? How would your office address this?
Well, the statistics indicate that crime is on the rise. It indicates that violence is on the rise. It also indicates that young people are committing more violent crimes than adults. What things that I think that I could bring to the table? Well, I've mentioned one of them. I've also, researched adding something to our field training program. We have to make sure that the community knows who's servicing that community. We need our deputies to maybe go to a school board meeting, maybe go to a city council meeting. And I say deputies, we have sergeants that do that. But how good would it be? How beneficial would it be to the community to have the deputy that they always see? They don't always see that command officer, but I see that deputy all the time. So I think that we have to accept responsibility for what's going on. As a law enforcement officer, I take it on the chin. There's something going on. I've been interrupted. Can I have 30 more seconds?
Sure.
All right. Mr. Eidelberg, could you mute your, thank you, sir. I'm sorry, that's not me.
No, it's not me either, so I don't know.
Hello, please leave a message after the tone.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Eidelberg, can you mute for just a second? Thank you.
Yes, we have to engage our community on many different levels. It is not fair for us to just say, well, I sent somebody to go get a message, or I sent somebody to go get information. No. As sheriff, not only will I ask our deputies to do that, but I will go. I am very hands-on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for letting me finish.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Eidelberg, you can unmute. Okay. And the question was, what do the current statistics on violence in Lake County indicate? How would your office address this? Oh, you're still muted. Okay, now you should be okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I have the statistics, and the statistics says crime is down in unincorporated Lake County that we serve. And I would like to state those numbers that I have. In 2017, total crime reported was 1,153. Total arrests was 299. In 2018, total crime reported was 1,338. Total arrests was 289. In 2019, total crime reported was 891. Total arrests was 284. In 2020, total crimes reported was 652. Total arrests is 274. Since 2021, total crime reported was 681. Total arrest was 186. That does not include DUI arrests or traffic arrests. So under my leadership, crime is down in unincorporated Lake County. Now, we also have to understand that in certain areas in our community, crime is up. And as the leader of the department, of the sheriff department, anytime anyone asks for my assistance, we're there. Because people also understand that we do have silos, and people are very, what the word I want to say, very protective of the area they serve. And as the sheriff, I cannot go into a city and tell someone what they should do. I'm there to assist them with any time that they need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next question is a little different, and it goes to Mr. Eidelberg first. How do you propose dealing with persons with mental health issues?
You know, that is a very good question. And one of the things under my leadership, 95% of my deputies have been trained how to de-escalate, to recognize people in crisis. And one of the things I also implemented, I also realized mental health is a crisis here in America, is a crisis here in Lake County. And one of the things I did was get funding for the MacArthur grant for the Wellness Center to help my officers deal with individuals who are going through mental health crisis. It is a facility where we can drop people off. And another things that I did was a pilot program with 6 law enforcement agencies here within Lake County, that officers have been trained how to de-escalate, how to identify people with mental health issues. And we also have clinical workers, social workers working with our deputies to help them deal with these individuals going to mental health crisis. and being able to get them the treatment and care or to the facility that they need. It's very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. King, on
Yes.
proposing dealing with people with mental health issues.
Well, as a police officer, we have dealt with that. I know well before I was a police officer, even more so when I became a police officer. Now, there was a statistic thrown out, I think 95% of the deputies were certified. Here's my question on that. How many of them use it? We have to get to the point where we're consistently training, refreshing, because the 8-hour course that we get or 40-hour course that we take, I would bet to say that probably half of the deputies that took it may not always use that training. So we have to continue to train. We have to continue to get better, to recognize what we're seeing, recognize what we're hearing. And that is a great thing that the sheriff has now, where, you know, you have a social worker come with a deputy, but I am talking about countywide. I'm not talking about just what our office is doing. I'm talking about creating relationships with other municipalities. We don't have to step on each other's toes. I've already had this talk with these municipalities. They are eager to form a relationship with the sheriff's office, and they can't understand why we have not done so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next question goes to Mr. King first. What are your perspectives for managing diverse populations of suspects and inmates? What specific training and accountability is needed for deputies and correction officers of diverse populations?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, I want to say like 7 years ago, I created a diversity de-escalation class specifically for law enforcement officers, but then I created one for civilians also. It is imperative that we recognize the different cultural beliefs, difference in culture. And just to give you a prime example, I had a young man that, a Latino young man, and he had done something, committed a crime, and I was using discretion. So I'm talking to him, but he wouldn't look me in my eye. And, you know, in my culture, you know, you look the person in your eye to show respect. But in that culture, he was showing me respect by not looking me in the eye. Now, when we bring that diversity to the jail, we have to be even more conscious of what we're doing and what we're saying, how we're treating people. It is not hard to do the right thing. And I don't care what anybody says about that. It is much easier to do the right thing than do something wrong. I much rather treat an individual with respect as an individual and not treat them less than.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Eidelberg, your response. What are your perspectives for managing diverse populations of suspects and inmates? And what specific training and accountability is needed for deputies and correction officers?
And that's a great question. And one of the platforms when I was running for office was saying that the Lake County Sheriff Department should be a reflection of the community that is served, and it does not. And what I'm trying to do is get more diverse individuals from our community to be part of the part of the Lake County Sheriff Department. The problem that we have in our community is that we do not have a lot of people who are interested in being law enforcement. How do we engage people to want to be part of this great profession that we all in? But also, as being a sheriff, I have implemented training to also identify how to deal with diverse community, and also try to hire as many minorities and women and people from all walks of life, because it's very important to understand the different culture and how to interact with them, and understand that some mannerism that certain culture have That's just how they speak. And some cultures may take that threatening. So it's again about being able to relate and be able to understand people to make our job easy and for them to feel comfortable with us when they engage the sheriff department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to Mr. Eidelberg first. What is your evaluation of the relationship between the Lake County Sheriff and local municipalities? And what steps will you take to maintain or improve them?
I think currently right now, the Lake County Sheriff Department has the best reputation and image from the local law enforcement. And the reason why I say that is this: when I started this pilot program, I had interact with over 30 law enforcement to be partnership with my mental health issues. And they all thought it was a great idea, but they could not allocate manpower. And that was the problem. They all said, Sheriff, we're on board with you. It's a great idea. We just cannot dedicate this manpower because we all have shortage with manpower. So again, I think I have a great relationship. I have my special investigator unit group that's taking drugs and guns off the street. And I have the local law enforcement reaching out to me, say, Sheriff, we want to be part of your team. You're doing a great job. You're making our community safe. So I have an excellent relationship with the law enforcement within Lake County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. King, your response to the question of what your evaluation of the relationship between Lake County Sheriff and local municipalities is, and what steps will you take to maintain or improve them?
Well, I stated before that we're working in silos. My evaluation is based upon research. I'm not talking about what I think may have occurred. I've actually gone out and talked to several of these municipalities. And the question is, why can't we work together? You know, and there's no reason why we can't work together. There's no reason why the stigma attached to the sheriff's office is, hey, we're the sheriff's office, you know, we're coming in to take over. No, that's not it. I don't know a lot of men and women on the sheriff's department that do that, but that is the stigma attached from other municipalities. So that tells me that the relationship isn't what it should be, but under my leadership, I can bridge those gaps. I can bring those people to the table. And matter of fact, I said there'd be no desk or no office that I will sit in when there's an issue. I'm coming to you. I don't want to step on your toes, but we have to talk about this. How can I help you? How can we foster a relationship that's going to be beneficial to the community? That's what needs to be talked about. I don't care about, you know, we got different groups, and we got some outstanding men and women in the sheriff's office, but we are working in silos, and that is a fact.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this goes again to you, Mr. King. Next question, describe the relationship and collaboration that the Lake County Sheriff Office has and should have with ICE.
Well, I know in previous administrations, that relationship was fostered and then it fizzled. I believe that we should have a relationship with every law enforcement entity. Now, if I don't agree with some of the things that a specific law enforcement entity does, then I have the confidence enough to stand up and tell them, hey, I don't believe in that. Let's go another course, or here's a suggestion. I believe that, you know, ICE, it serves a function, but due to where we are in our nation, in our county, there are things that we need to really be on top of, and we're not. As I said, there's some great men and women that work for ICE, but you know, we need to work together and not in silos.
Okay, thank you. Now the question to you, Mr. Eidelberg. Describe the relationship and collaboration that the Lake County Sheriff's Office has and should have with ICE.
The Lake County Sheriff Department is responsible for state laws and ordinance. The Lake County Sheriff Department and no sheriff has the authority to enforce federal laws. ICE issues is about immigrations and federal law. No sheriff has that authority to enforce federal laws. And I understand that. So under that understanding, there is no working relationship with the Lake County Sheriff Department to work with ICE, immigration. That is not my responsibility. That is not my mandate or my statutory authority to work with ICE. Now, if we come in contact with someone and if they have an immigration issue, that is not my concern. My concern is about why did we come in contact with that person? If we need to arrest that person. And then once the person follows through the justice system, they are free to leave. But I make it very clear that the sheriff, I'm the sheriff of Lake County, we do not enforce federal laws because we have no authority or mandate to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this will be the last question before closing statements, and it goes to Mr. Eidelberg first. What are your thoughts about the Pretrial Fairness Act and the Sheriff's Office role in enforcing this?
That's a very good question. And I also have to understand is this. On our current system that we have in the judicial system, there have been some mistakes made, as well as in law enforcement. And I think that this Fairness Act regarding sentencing and pretrial, I think it's been way overdue to look at. And I also believe that we can do better. And I think this police reform have addressed that. And I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. King, your response to the question, what are your thoughts about the Pretrial Fairness Act and the Sheriff's Office role in enforcing this?
I'm in agreement. I think it's about time that things started to being addressed, but there's still so much that needs to be addressed. I think that sometimes I believe that the bail should fit the crime. I believe that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, but we could be doing more. You have individuals who probably shouldn't be in jail right now because of whatever misdemeanor crime there was. And I believe that that act was a start in the right direction. But I will say this, we as a society don't really go at the problem. The problem is our legislators who are making these laws. We're not tasked with making laws. We're tasked with enforcing. But if I can talk to my legislator about what the communities I service are feeling, I want to convey that to them. So now when they go and they sign these bills, I want them to start thinking about it. I want them to start thinking about the individuals as they're signing this bill. Is it going to help these communities?
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll go to our 2-minute closing statements, and we'll have Mr. King start.
Thank you. In closing, we are talking about safer neighborhoods. How do we do that? Well, I just gave you a way to resolve some of that issue. Safer schools. As a school resource officer, I see it. Having children in the schools, I see it. Being a mentor to these young adults, I've seen it. We can no longer just see it. We can no longer be afraid to do anything about it. We have to step up and step out. Time for change is now. We talk about real law enforcement. Hey, I've lived it and lived it every day. I don't know about anybody else on this Zoom or anything else, but I put a bulletproof vest on and a gun. I pray before I go out every day that if I don't come home, if I should have to forfeit my life for somebody else I don't know, I am willing to do that because I entered into this profession to serve, to help. So with that being said, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Lake County. I am very humbled to be on this Zoom with you all. And I say, vote for William C. King for Lake County Sheriff, because together is the only way we're going to change.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Eidelberg, your closing statement?
You know, I sit here and listen about some of the things that were said, and I'll just be honest with you. I understand what the rules were and playing by the rules, but also understand there was a lot of misinformation and that I didn't have a chance to respond to. But what I want to say is this, you know, I am really the only true law enforcement leader in this race for sheriff. I have been appointed to the Illinois Law Enforcement Training Standard Board, where I involved in the future of training of officers in the state of Illinois. I was appointed by the governor. I'm also the past president of the Illinois Police Association from 2017 to 2019. I have dedicated my life and career to public service and law enforcement. I know what it takes to make our community safe. I have engaged people from all walks of life within the community and having a conversation. I have the most proven track record, and my number says that I am the true leader. And it's about safety, interacting with the community, and I have done that. And again, I'm concerned about our children's in schools, and we have implemented more contact with the schools. We have implemented procedures to make our community safe. And I am very focused on interacting with all people from walks of life and people who can make some suggestions or comment how we can make our community safe. Because again, it's about partnership and people feel safe to move within our community. And I am dedicated to that. And one of the things I want to do in my next 4 years is put together a program for wellness center for our police officers, our first responders, that they respond to situations that most people never see or hear, and they're not getting the treatment and care that they need. I'm concerned about them. And based on that, what I'm saying is that I want to be reelected sheriff of Lake County because I have done an excellent job. My record is proven. I want to thank you, the Women's League voters, for this opportunity to talk about my background and my experience. It's been a great interaction with everyone this evening. I want to thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to thank the Democratic candidates for Lake County Sheriff, Mr. Eidelberg and Mr. King, for participating in this forum. And to the League of Women Voters in Lake County for sponsoring this forum. Remember to cast your ballot. Voting by mail and early voting have begun. Election day is June 28th. To find information about voting and on candidates, use the League of Women Voters of Illinois voter guide. This forum has been recorded and will be available on the sponsoring league's social media pages and on the Illinois voter guide. Thank you again to the league, to the candidates for participating, and to the audience for attending. And I hope you enjoy the remainder of your evening, and good night.